Hey, welcome back. Today I've got some creepy 4chan stories that honestly creeped me out. Drop a like and subscribe if you want more. Let's get into it. My parents covered up my brother's violent crime to protect our reputation. I just found evidence and don't know what to do. One woman discovers her family's darkest secret in a safe. What comes next changes everything. I'm 26 female, and I'm going to lose my mind if I don't write this down. My family has always cared way too much about appearances. My parents are wealthy and well-connected. My older brother Marcus is 31 and has always gotten special treatment. I've always known something was wrong with him. He's charming, but there's something cold underneath, something that makes my skin crawl. I tried to tell my parents once when I was younger, but got shut down hard. They said I was jealous. I learned not to ask questions. Tonight, I was looking for old photo albums in my parents' safe. I wanted to make a birthday collage for my dad. My mom has always trusted me with the combination. I wasn't snooping. Instead, I found an envelope. Not hidden exactly, but positioned deliberately behind stock certificates and jewelry. The moment I opened it, my hands started shaking. And what was inside changes everything. Inside were settlement agreements, 4 of them. Legal documents with redacted sections, but enough visible to understand. Law firm names, my dad's signature. Attached to each were photographs of cashier's checks ranging from $50K to $150K, dated August 2018. There was a newspaper clipping from June 2018 about an unsolved assault case. Woman in her mid-20s, attacked leaving a nightclub downtown, serious injuries. Someone had handwritten a note in my dad's writing. It said, "All taken care of, she won't talk." I'm connecting dots from years ago. In 2018, Marcus went through a rough patch. My parents sent him to rehab for a month for a drinking problem nobody had ever mentioned. When he came back, it was like nothing happened. They covered it up. They paid off victims and used connections to make sure the case went nowhere. My brother has been free for 8 years like nothing happened. I don't know if there are other victims. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should go to police. But how can I sit on evidence of a serious crime and a massive cover-up? My parents come home tomorrow. I need to decide before they realize I know. And that's where part 1 ends, with OP staring at evidence and facing an impossible choice. OP decides to actually dig into what she found. And this is where things get worse. I spent the next week going through everything. The settlement documents were dated May 2014. Each one paid out to different people with confidentiality clauses buried in the fine print. I recognized one name. It was in the police blotter I found online for a reported assault outside a nightclub downtown. No arrest was ever made. Case went cold. But the police report described someone matching my brother's build. Same tattoo on his arm that I know he's had since he was 22. I did more research. Pulled old news articles from archives. There was a brief mention of the incident, but the story got killed almost immediately. No follow-up coverage, no investigation. But I found a victim advocacy site where anonymous survivors posted their stories. One post, dated summer 2014, described an assault that matched perfectly. The location, the description, everything. And the timing, right before the settlement document showed up. I cross-referenced the lawyer who signed the agreements. One Google search showed he'd worked with our family's firm for decades. His specialty was handling sensitive matters, cleaning up family situations, making problems disappear. She has the evidence now. The picture is clear. So she decides to confront them. I waited until my brother was out of the house. I had the documents spread across my parents' bed when they got home from dinner. I'll never forget their faces. My mom went completely white. My dad actually stepped backward. I said, "I know what you did. I need you to explain this to me." My mom started crying, but not normal crying, panic crying. She kept saying it was handled, it was dealt with, it was years ago. My dad went into crisis mode. He told me I didn't understand the full situation, that these matters were complicated, that we had to protect our family name, that what happened was a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. I said someone got hurt. He said that was handled. He kept using that word, handled, like my brother had broken a window. When I asked him directly if our brother had done what the documents implied, he refused to answer. He said some things were better left alone, that our family had a reputation to maintain, that bringing this up now would destroy everything we'd built. My mom just kept saying, "Sorry, sorry, sorry." But she wasn't apologizing for what my brother did. She was apologizing that I'd found out. And right there, she realizes how deep this runs. They're not denying it. They're just telling her to shut up about it, which makes everything so much worse. So I pushed harder. I came right out and asked them point blank, "Is this about the assault case from 2008? They went completely quiet. My dad's face darkened in a way I'd never seen. My mom tried to backtrack, saying I was taking things out of context, but I'd pieced it together. The victim's initials matched the settlement check. I had dates, amounts, everything. After a long silence, my dad said something like, "We were protecting the family, protecting our name." He said my brother made a terrible mistake when he was young, that pressing charges would have destroyed all our lives. My mom kept saying she was protecting me and my brother's future. They never fully admitted what happened, but they didn't deny it either. They just kept circling back to how it was handled years ago and we should let it go. The more they talked, the more I realized the scope. Multiple settlements, different lawyers, connections I didn't understand. My parents had built a network to keep this buried. Something shifted in me after that. I started noticing things about my brother I'd overlooked. The way he'd talk about women, how he always found reasons to be around certain people, younger friends, girls his own age who seemed uncomfortable. A cousin once said she avoided family events because he made her uneasy. I thought she was exaggerating. Now I saw it differently. He had this thing, hand on a shoulder, knee grip, without asking. Nothing huge in isolation, but the pattern was predatory. There was a girl he met through work who stopped coming to family events. My parents said she'd moved away. I asked my mom once why, and she changed the subject immediately. I'm sitting with all of this now. My parents didn't just cover up one crime. They enabled someone they knew was hurting people. The comment section absolutely lit up. Your parents essentially became accessories after the fact. Please tell me you're planning to report this. Your brother is a predator and they're enabling him. I am. I've been collecting everything. The documents, the clipping, text messages where my mom accidentally mentioned the settlement without context. I'm terrified of what my family will do when they find out, but if he's already hurt someone else recently, I can't stay silent. My parents made their choice when they chose him over the truth. Do not wait on this. If you have proof your family helped cover up an assault, go to the police immediately. Your brother's status and your family's reputation don't matter. I'm so sorry. That's a lot to carry alone. Whatever you decide, protecting yourself and others is more important than family loyalty. On to the next one. OP didn't just sit with what she'd discovered. She decided to act, and fast. I reported everything to the police, and my family hired lawyers to intimidate me. I went to the police station with copies of everything: the lawyer letters, settlement agreements, newspaper clipping about the assault. The detective took it seriously and opened an investigation into what happened back then. But here's where it got bad. My parents found out I'd gone to the cops, and within 48 hours, they had lawyers contacting me. Not to talk, just to intimidate. Cease and desist letters, threats about defamation, about me spreading lies that damaged the family. My parents still haven't directly addressed what I told them about my brother. Instead, they're protecting him. They're paying lawyers to make sure I can't talk about what I know. But something clicked for me this week. My younger friend Emma, she was close to all of us, basically grew up with my brother. I hadn't seen her since before college. I ran into her at the grocery store and she looked completely different. Not physically, just hollow. We tried to catch up, but she basically shut down. Barely spoke. I texted her later asking if she wanted to hang out and she never replied. Then I remembered something. In the police files about the original assault, the victim's description matched Emma's build, her age from back then. I suddenly realized, what if it wasn't just one victim? What if my brother's pattern started earlier? I told the police about Emma. They're now looking into whether she was another target. If she was, and my parents knew or suspected, and they're still covering for him, I don't have words for that. Comments on this post were immediate and intense. People saw what was happening, a family choosing their name over public safety, and the machinery turning to protect a predator. The friend situation is the most disturbing part. If he's targeting again and your parents know and are staying silent, that's active complicity in letting a predator hunt. Exactly. Predators escalate when they're not held accountable. OP's parents gave him permission to do it again by covering up the first time. This is how repeat offenders end up feeling untouchable. The friend situation is the most disturbing part. If he's targeting again and your parents know and are staying silent, that's active complicity in letting a predator hunt. This is exactly what broke me. I've been trying to process whether to reach out to her directly or if that would make things worse. The detective said they might need her statement, but I'm terrified of what that will do to her if she spent this long trying to forget. The fact that they're justifying it as protecting the family shows they care more about their name than public safety. What if he does it again to someone else? Now the question was whether it would matter, whether the lawyers and family money would be enough to bury it all again, whether Emma would get justice or silence, and whether OP could hold her nerve while her own family came at her from every angle. And then OP made the call. She walked into that police station with everything. Every document, every email, every payment record. There was no going back after that. I reported everything to the police, and my family hired lawyers to intimidate me. I did it. Took everything to the police station and laid it all out. The detective didn't hide her shock. I could see it the moment she opened the first file. Years of documentation. My parents' lawyers involved. Settlement agreements with victims' names. The case was officially unsolved, but thoroughly buried by people with money and connections. They opened a full investigation immediately. Within 48 hours, my parents had hired defense lawyers and the pressure started. Not direct threats, but everyone understood the message: recant or face consequences. I shut down every call and text. I didn't respond to any of it. Then my younger friend came forward. She told the detective about my brother, about the party, about how she'd withdrawn from everyone trying to cope. That's exactly what the first victim had done. I watched the detective's face when she made that connection, like something clicked. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern. Same behavior, different victims. Same family cover-up machinery activated again. The comment section understood what had just happened. Do you still have proof? Documents, emails, texts, anything? You'll need it when you go to the police. Don't destroy anything. Do you still have proof? Documents, emails, texts, anything? You'll need it when you go to the police. Don't destroy anything. And that's what happens when someone finally breaks the silence. OP lost her entire family doing this, cut off with lawyers and public rejection. But a detective got answers. A victim got believed. A predator's pattern got exposed. The cost of protecting family secrets is paid by someone. In this case, it was paid by the person who refused to stay silent. On to the next one. My dog returned after 6 months missing, but it refuses my bedroom, and I don't think it's really him. This one came from Late Night Dread on the X board, and it grabbed everyone's attention immediately when it went up. It's short, it's coherent, it reads like someone documenting something real in real time, and it's got a premise that will sit under your skin. My dog went missing 6 months ago. Border Collie mix, black and white, answers to Sparky. We put up flyers, called the shelter weekly, checked every database. Nothing. My family kind of accepted he was gone. I even adopted another dog just to fill the quiet. But then last week, I heard scratching at the back door at around 2 a.m. I opened it, and there he was. Same coloring, same size, exact same scar on his left ear. I lost my mind. I cried. I called my parents at 2 in the morning. It was Sparky. He had to be. For the first day, it was perfect. He ate, he slept on the couch, Everything seemed normal. I thought maybe he'd been living wild somewhere. Maybe a neighbor had kept him. I didn't care about the how or why. He was home. Then, the wrongness started showing up. Not all at once. It crept in through little details, the kind of things that alone wouldn't mean anything, but together paint a picture of something deeply wrong. The way he moves is wrong. His gait is off, like his back legs aren't quite synchronized with his front. The way he sits is all wrong too. When he sits, his spine curves in a way it shouldn't. I got down on the floor and looked at him from the side, and that curve, I can't unsee it. I've had dogs my entire life. I know how they're supposed to move, how they're supposed to sit. This isn't right. And then there's the bedroom. He won't go in my bedroom. I'll call him in there, and he stops at the doorway, stares into the dark room, then walks away. He refuses, every single time. I tried to pick him up and carry him in yesterday, and he twisted and fought and whimpered until I put him down. Last night at 3 a.m., I woke up because something felt off. I looked at my doorway, and he was standing there, just standing there, watching me sleep. I could barely see him in the dark, but I could see the shape of his spine curving against the light from the hallway. And I thought, this isn't him. I don't know what this is, but it isn't my dog. That's the hook. That's the moment where the wrongness crosses from subtle observations into undeniable dread. The spine detail, the bedroom refusal, the thing standing in the doorway at 3 a.m. These details matter, and this is just the beginning of how deep this goes.
The differences weren't subtle. The more OP looked, the more everything about this dog was fundamentally, impossibly wrong. The way it moves is wrong. When Max walks across the hardwood, his gait isn't right. There's a hesitation in every step, a jerk step pattern I can't describe any other way. He never did that. Real Max had this smooth, confident walk. He'd trot through the house like he owned it. This thing, it moves like it's learning how to be a dog, like it's studying my house and figuring out which walls to walk along. And the spine, God, the spine. I finally got a good look at him from the side yesterday when he was drinking water. There's a curve in his back that shouldn't exist. I know my dog's body like I know my own. I've petted him thousands of times over his life. Max's spine was straight, normal. This thing has a curve that runs up from his lower back to his shoulder blades, like his vertebrae are stacked wrong, like something put them in the wrong order. I took him to Dr. Patterson and asked if it could be arthritis or something he developed in 6 months. She said it wasn't possible. She said his skeleton doesn't match the x-rays she has from his checkup last year. That's when I knew I had to admit the truth. This creature was not my dog. But the physical wrongness was only part of it. He still won't go in the bedroom. I left the door open today and stood in the doorway, just watching. He got close, sniffed the threshold, and backed away. His ears flattened completely. He sat in the living room for hours staring at that closed door, not moving. Max loved sleeping on the bed. He'd curl up right next to me every single night, his head on the pillow like he belonged there. This thing, it's terrified of that room. Everything else is wrong too. He doesn't respond to his toys the same way. He doesn't greet me when I come home. He just watches from across the room like he's studying a stranger for the first time. His eyes track differently now, in this calculated way, like he's learning what it means to be Max, except he's doing it all wrong. His movements are still hesitant, still wrong. I haven't slept properly since he came back. Every time I try to close my eyes, I can feel him out there in the living room, watching my closed bedroom door, waiting for something, waiting for me. By now, OP was certain of one thing. What came back from wherever it had been was not the dog that left. The wrongness was accelerating. Night by night, the facade was cracking. I kept telling myself I was being insane. Maybe he was traumatized from his time missing. Maybe he'd been hit by a car and the impact messed with his spine somehow. Dogs are resilient. Maybe he just needed time and patience to adjust. I tried everything I could think of. I left his favorite toy on my bed. I left treats leading into the bedroom like breadcrumbs. Nothing worked. He'd approach the doorway, his body would go rigid, and he'd back away like something invisible was blocking him from entering. On the second night, I barely slept.
I'd lie there listening to him move through the house, that wrong walk, the way his joints bent at angles that shouldn't be possible. Every creak sent me into full panic. I started imagining things in the dark. By the third night, I stopped trying to sleep at all. I just sat on the couch watching him pace back and forth, waiting for something. Waiting for what? I don't know. Every rational explanation I tried to construct just crumbled under scrutiny. Dogs don't move like that. Dogs don't refuse entire rooms. Dogs recognize their homes. This wasn't my dog. I knew it in a way I couldn't explain but couldn't ignore anymore. And the worst part was that he kept staring at me. A lot. Just watching. Like he was waiting for me to figure out what he actually was. Reddit lit up, and people were seeing what OP couldn't unsee. This is the creepiest thing I've read all month. The fact that it refuses the bedroom specifically is sending chills down my spine. Have you checked what's actually in there? Dogs don't just refuse entire rooms unless something traumatized them. If this was really your dog, it would have memory. The fact that it won't enter means it's proof it's not. The dental work detail is disturbing. Did your vet actually express concern, or were they dismissive? That seems like something they'd flag immediately. And OP was starting to piece it together. The vet knew something that would confirm the truth. OP posted an update shortly after, and everything clicked into place. I finally watched the security footage, and I understand what it wanted. I don't want to keep living like this, but I need to lay everything out. People were right about checking the property. Last Tuesday, I walked the backyard with a shovel and dug near the oak tree. 3 feet down, I found my original dog's collar. The tag still had his name on it. Beside it was something else. I can't describe that object. It was small, coin-sized, but the texture and color are burned into my head. It didn't belong in the ground. I took both to my vet Wednesday because I needed someone to tell me I was wrong. Dr. Morrison sat quiet for a long time after examining it. She said whatever it was, it shouldn't exist. Those were her exact words. Then she examined the creature and did x-rays. The dental work made her face go white. She showed me the images. The original dog had normal teeth. This creature has molars that shouldn't fit in a dog's jaw. The root structure is completely wrong. The mineral composition is impossible. She said in 30 years she'd never seen anything like it. She didn't call it my dog. She called it a specimen. When she asked where I'd been keeping it, her voice sounded afraid. I never went back inside. So OP didn't have a sick dog that needed a vet. OP had something that had already replaced its dog, and it was living in the house. The comments came in fast, and people understood what this meant. Please don't go back inside without someone else with you. Something is seriously wrong here, and I don't want to read about you disappearing next. Real talk. OP, if you're reading this, document everything. Take photos of the collar, get screenshots of your vet notes, and file a police report if you haven't already. This goes beyond creepy into actual evidence territory. 3 a.m. visits are never coincidence. Was that the only time it tried the doorway, or did it happen multiple nights? But the house was still occupied, and OP wasn't going back. And that's where it ended. OP couldn't rationalize away the teeth, the spine curve, the impossible wrongness. One truth remained. They had to leave. I'm at my sister's place now. I've been here since Thursday, and I can't go back to that house. I know how that sounds, but I can't. The thing is still there. It's in the bedroom. I don't know what it's doing in there, but it's absolutely in there. I left food and water out because what else do you do? And the bowls are empty every morning, but I don't go back to watch it eat. I can't bring myself to do that. My sister knows something is wrong, but she thinks the dog got feral, and I just snapped. That's easier than the truth. The truth is, my original dog's collar is in a box at her place, and something that shouldn't exist is in my bedroom, and I'm sleeping in her spare room because I'm afraid to close my eyes in the dark. The house is still mine. The thing is still there in it. I just don't know what it wanted when it came home wearing my dog like a suit. OP came back with an update a few days later. I finally watched the security footage and I understand what it wanted. I couldn't watch until last night. I was drunk, the only way I could do it. I went through 6 months of footage. Nothing the day it showed up. Nothing until last week. It came at 3 a.m. and just walked up like it belonged there. Straight to the bedroom window,
stood there for 40 minutes. The camera caught it in the glass between the blinds. Then it went around back and dug in the yard for an hour, looking for something. Looking for what it left behind when it took my dog. When it found the collar buried where the creature had put it, it went back to the bedroom window, and I saw its face in the reflection. That spine curved wrong. Those teeth that didn't belong to any animal. Its eyes looking right at where I sleep. It wanted me to know it was there. It wanted me to see. It wanted me to understand that when it took my dog, something else came walking back in, and I am never getting my dog back. Comments hit different on this one. When you said its spine curves sideways, do you mean like a scoliosis twist or something physically impossible? The distinction matters a lot here. That's the real horror of it. Your home becomes stage dressing for something else's story. OP is safe now, sleeping in her sister's guest room, but that house still stands. The thing is still in the bedroom, still wearing the wrongness, still watching from windows. The original dog won't stand there again. The violation of familiar space. The replacement of the known with the wrong. On to the next one. I'm caring for my elderly mother and realized someone is systematically replacing every item in her house with cheaper knockoffs. I found her old things hidden in the basement. Sometimes the most unsettling crimes unfold in plain sight, so slowly you don't notice until it's too late. This story came from a paranormal board, posted by someone noticing something deeply wrong in their own home. I've been my mom's primary caregiver for the past 2 years, ever since she had a stroke. She's 75 now, and I moved back in specifically to take care of her. I help with her mobility, her medications, doctor appointments, everything. We've always been close, so putting her in a home just never felt right. About 2 weeks ago, something felt off. Small things at first. I noticed her TV remote felt lighter than I remembered, noticeably lighter. And this reading chair she's had for probably 15 years, the one she absolutely loves, the fabric looked different. Not worn out, just different. When I asked her about it, she said she didn't remember getting a new one. She said it's been the same forever as far as she knew. That's when my brain started working overtime. I looked at everything in the house more carefully. Her lamp, the shade looked cheaper. Her coffee maker, the buttons felt plasticky in a way that didn't match what I remembered. The more I looked, the more I saw it. This wasn't random wear and tear or my memory being fuzzy. Something systematic was happening here. OP knew they had to investigate further. The basement was where answers could be found. I went through every room, opening cabinets and drawers. The kitchen towels had a different texture. Her favorite reading glasses, different frames, different prescription. Her shower caddy was this flimsy thing that didn't feel sturdy at all. I started photographing everything, comparing it to what I actually remembered. I needed to understand how far this went. That's when I decided to check the basement. I hadn't been down there in months. We keep it pretty empty, just storage. But when I opened the basement door and walked toward the storage closet, I found something that made my blood run cold. Inside that closet was a pile. Her original things. All of them. The real remote. Her actual reading chair, shoved against the wall. The real coffee maker. The real glasses. Her actual shower caddy. This nice, solid one that probably cost $200. Every single item that had been replaced was right there, hidden away like evidence. That's when it hit me. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't my mom getting confused or the items wearing out. Someone had been in my house, systematically replacing her belongings with cheap knockoffs and keeping the originals in the basement like some kind of sick collection. How long has this been happening? And who has access to my house?
So OP decided to actually inventory what was happening, room by room.
I started in the living room. The TV remote. Lighter than my mother's old one. Cheaper plastic. Buttons less responsive. The reading chair next to her window. The label said some knockoff brand, not the leather lazy boy she'd owned for 15 years. I checked the tag on the bottom. Different. I pulled up pictures on my phone from family photos taken last summer. That chair looked completely different. Someone had swapped them out. I moved to her bedroom. Her nightstand lamp. I knew this one because I'd given it to her years ago. A nice brass floor lamp from a real furniture store. Gone. Replaced with something that looks similar, but flimsy, made of hollow plastic painted to look like brass. The weight difference was obvious when I picked it up. I set it back down carefully, like it might shatter. Her alarm clock, her reading glasses case, the small television in her room. Gone. All gone. Replaced. I started taking photos on my phone, comparing them to pictures from 6 months ago, a year ago. The dining room chairs, 3 of them swapped. Her coffee maker in the kitchen. She had a nice Breville, maybe 10 years old but well maintained. Now there was a generic model that looked just similar enough that if you didn't look closely, you'd miss it. I went through the hallway closet, her coat collection. The one she wore most often, a wool coat from a department store, someone had switched it out for a polyester knockoff. I could feel the difference immediately. This wasn't random. This wasn't her forgetting what she'd had. This was methodical, planned. Someone had come into our house and systematically replaced expensive items with cheap imitations, one piece at a time. And the realization hit. If this many things had been changed, what hadn't changed yet? How long had this been going on? I stood in the hallway with my phone full of photos and my stomach in knots. The medication bottles. I checked her bathroom immediately. All her prescriptions were there, same labels, same bottles. Or were they? I pulled 3 of them out and held them up to the light. The expiration dates were different from what I remembered. Were they? I couldn't be sure. I was doubting my own memory now. The bathroom scales, the fancy digital one my mother had bought last year. Was that still there, or had it been replaced too? I honestly couldn't remember. That terrified me more than anything else. And the access. Who had been in this house? The home health aide came 3 days a week. The nurse came once a month. My sister visited sometimes, usually Sundays. The cleaning service came every other week. I'd given my younger brother a key 2 years ago in case of emergency. My mother's old friend Janet sometimes came by to do her hair. How many people knew where my mother kept her valuable things? How many people had keys? How long had I been missing this? I called my mother into the living room. She was confused at first, then worried by the look on my face. I asked her to sit down, told her I needed to ask her some questions about when things in the house had changed. She couldn't remember. She couldn't remember getting new things or noticing old things disappearing. That's when the fear really set in. If she didn't notice, what else wasn't she noticing? Had someone been poisoning her slowly? That's where the paranoia starts to take root. So Caretaker Mystery decided to take it to Reddit. Figured if anyone knew what kind of predator does this, it'd be the people on X. I'm posting because I need to know if I'm losing my mind or if someone is genuinely doing this to my mother. For context, I've been her primary caregiver since her stroke 2 years ago. Over the last few months, I've noticed small things off about her house. The TV remote feels lighter. Her reading chair doesn't feel right. When I asked her where she got new furniture, she couldn't remember. That's when I started looking closer. The basement storage room had all her original expensive items stacked and hidden. Her old TV remote, her actual leather reading chair, brand name electronics. Everything valuable is down there. Everything in the actual living areas is cheap knockoff garbage. This didn't happen overnight. Someone with regular house access has been systematically replacing things. I have a timeline now. The replacement started around the same time my brother began visiting twice a week, and when my mom hired a home health aide. I'm documenting everything, and I need to know who would actually do this and why. Is it just money? Is it something worse? The thread blew up, and not with theories about typical theft. I work in healthcare and I'm horrified. Relabeling prescription bottles is not an accident. That's someone trying to poison her or cause a medical emergency. Get her to safety now. The fake medication bottles are the detail that made my skin crawl. This isn't petty theft. This is someone with access trying to slowly harm her and avoid detection. And then someone asked the question that made it real. Your mother might be experiencing cognitive decline and doesn't remember her own purchases. But the fake meds part? That's intentional harm. Who has access to her house when you're not there? That's the part that keeps me up at night. My brother visits twice a week. He has his own key. My mom has also hired a home health aide 3 times a week since her stroke. I never thought either of them would do this, but the timeline lines up with when the replacements started.
I'm pulling her medical records now because some of those bottles have been swapped recently, and I need to know if she's actually been taking her real medications or the counterfeits. And that was when things went from strange to dangerous.
But then something shifted. OP started looking closer at what was being swapped in, and that's when it turned dark. I found out who's been replacing my mother's things, and the cops won't help because it's a family matter. I went back through everything, the TV remote, the chair, all of it. I started looking at what was actually replacing these items. That's when I realized this wasn't just about money. The blood pressure monitor I found? No certification marks, no serial numbers, nothing. My mom's doctor has been monitoring her condition for her stroke recovery, and she's using a fake device that could give completely wrong readings. The shower chair in the bathroom. I tested it. It's flimsy, the welds are weak. If my mom falls, there's no safety feature, nothing to catch her. And then I found the prescription bottles. The labels are handwritten over the pharmacy labels. I started reading them and my blood ran cold. The dosages were different. The medication names were wrong. My mother has been taking things that aren't what she's supposed to be taking. I called her doctor in a panic. They had no record of these medications. That's when I understood. Someone isn't just stealing from my mother, they're putting her life in active danger. The comments came in and people understood what was happening. This is elder financial and physical abuse. Document everything. Photos, dates, the relabeled medications. You may need to file a report with Adult Protective Services instead of regular police. APS is the right move here. Police treat this as civil/family stuff and basically refuse to get involved. APS has actual authority to investigate elder abuse, interview everyone with access, and force safety measures. Also get a medical professional to examine what's in those fake bottles. If they're actually dangerous substances, you're looking at criminal charges, not just civil disputes. The basement closet full of originals is the smoking gun. This person wanted to keep the proof hidden, but also wanted to keep the real items as backup or insurance. Deeply calculated. And that's when the reality became impossible to deny.
So OP decided they couldn't sit on this any longer. Someone had been inside their mother's house systematically replacing everything. Time to find out who and confront them. I found out who's been replacing my mother's things, and the cops won't help because it's a family matter. I confronted my mother about her aide, Janet. She's been with us for 18 months and has unlimited access. When I brought up the swapped items, she got confused, didn't even realize things were different. I asked directly, "Did Janet replace your furniture?" My mother looked ashamed. She said yes, that Janet told her the old things needed replacing, that the new versions were better but affordable. It was all a lie. I called police non-emergency and filed a full report. Documented everything, photos, timestamps, serial numbers on the replacements. The officer I spoke with said because we're uncertain exactly what Janet did or whether my mother might have consented to some replacements given her confusion after the stroke, it's legally murky. They classified it as a family or caregiver matter and said I'd need civil court and a lawyer, not criminal charges. One officer even suggested maybe my mother just wanted new things but forgot. I fired Janet immediately. But here's what keeps me up at night. She still knows everything. The house layout, the security codes, which medications my mother takes, her daily routines. She could come back and swap things out in ways I'd never notice for days. The medications scare me most. How would I know if the labeled bottles were suddenly wrong? And that's where it lands. Not with justice or accountability, but with a terminated caregiver and a system that offered nothing. The comment section came with urgent concerns, and one reply surfaced something OP hadn't voiced yet. Has your mother been moved to a new location yet? If whoever is doing this knows you found the stash, they might escalate or move her. Please prioritize getting her medical records and identity documents safe. That comment reframed the whole thing. Not just about what Janet had already done, but what she could still do. She had the keys. She knew the layout. She knew the medical routines. And OP was powerless to stop her from coming back. There's no legal category for a care worker who slowly poisons trust by replacing things without permission. No mechanism to protect against an unannounced return. OP had documentation, police involvement, a terminated contract, and still no peace of mind.
These are the violations that don't resolve cleanly through the system. On to the next one. 25F, my coworker has been copying my voice and mannerisms so perfectly that clients can't tell us apart anymore. This one comes from a tech sales worker on X. She's about to walk us through something that started as mirroring and became something much worse. I work in tech sales, been doing it for almost 3 years now at a mid-sized software company. My job is to handle client calls, demos, and follow-ups. I'm good at what I do. I know how to read a room, adapt my pitch, make people feel heard. My catchphrase, the one I use constantly, is, "Let's make this make sense," when clients are overwhelmed by features or pricing. I say it with this specific cadence, this rhythm that somehow makes people nod along and feel better. I've built my entire client book on this. People know me. They book calls specifically asking for me. Then, 6 weeks ago, Alicia started. Fresh grad, enthusiastic, assigned to my team as a junior sales rep. First week, I noticed her sitting near my desk during calls, listening in. Normal onboarding stuff. But then I noticed she was repeating my phrases back to clients. Not my exact words, not yet, but the structure, the timing. By week 2, something shifted. She wasn't just echoing, she was studying. And it got worse from there. I started tracking it. Her laugh. I have a specific laugh, kind of a staccato thing. Within days, she had it down. Not close, exact. The way my shoulders move when I laugh, the exact pitch. Then my facial expressions during pitches, the way I tilt my head when listening, my intonation when I say certain numbers, my pace when I'm excited about a feature, all of it, piece by piece by piece. By week 4, she wasn't just mimicking, she was indistinguishable. Clients would call back and ask if the other version of me could handle their account. They meant Alicia. They couldn't tell us apart anymore on calls. And then, last Tuesday, I was walking past the conference room. Alicia was on a client call with Peterson Industries, one of my biggest accounts, and I heard her say it. "Let's make this make sense." My exact cadence, my exact pause before the last word, my exact timing, the way only I say it. She wasn't learning from me anymore. She was replacing me. Things escalated fast. By week 3, clients were asking for her by name. Alicia had my speech patterns down to exact rhythm and pause structure. She knew exactly when I'd say, "Let's make this make sense." And now she was saying it in client calls where I wasn't there. The requests started coming within days. Clients would call back and ask for the other version of you. At first I thought they meant another team, but no. They wanted Alicia specifically. They said she handled concerns exactly like I did. Same tone, same reassurance. One client told me, "It's like talking to you, but more patient." She was better at being me than I was. Then I realized this wasn't mirroring anymore. Mirroring is subconscious. This was studied, intentional. She had my laugh, the exact moment where it breaks and comes back higher. My habit of tilting my head when listening. She knew to pause for 3 seconds before delivering bad news, something I'd done years without thinking. I started noticing her watching me, not glancing, actually watching. During calls, lunch, even in the bathroom mirror. She'd pull out her phone like checking messages, but her eyes were on me. How I held coffee, the way I crossed my legs, which words I emphasized. It stopped feeling like flattery. It felt like being studied, like I was material for something. That's when OP went back through the company call recordings and listened to every moment Alicia was in the room. I listened to all the recordings and she was documenting more than my voice. I pulled every single call recording from the shared drive, ones we worked on together, ones where she was in the background. I listened through them back to back. At first, I wanted to track when she started copying phrases, but the more I listened, the clearer it became. She wasn't just matching my voice. On every call where I was present, she was matching my response patterns, the exact words I'd use for objections, the specific way I ease into price increases, the laugh at the same jokes. It was like watching someone study a script and execute it perfectly. There was a call from week 2 where a client pushed hard on pricing. Alicia jumped in with my response, word for word, not paraphrased, the exact sentence I always use, exact inflection. I've been doing this job 3 years. This is my rhythm, my strategy. She had it down in less than 2 weeks. That's not copying, not studying. That's someone who decided to become me and executed the plan. The recordings proved it. She was absorbing everything, documenting me like a specimen.
By week 4, paranoia had set in. Every meeting felt like a trap, waiting for my own voice to echo back at me, perfected by someone else. The worst part wasn't the clients anymore. It was that I'd stopped feeling like myself. I rehearsed sentences before meetings, trying to claim them first. I changed my vocabulary, my pacing, anything to feel like my voice was mine. But within days, she'd adopt whatever I introduced. It felt calculated. I documented everything, every call asking for the other me, every client who said they wanted to talk to me in my voice. By week 5, I wasn't just anxious, I was fractured. In conversations, I'd think, is this how I actually sound, or is this her? I brought the documentation to HR and told them everything, and they told me something that made my skin crawl. Another employee had reported her too. Not voice, mannerisms, speech patterns, movement, like she was studying people. That's when I understood this wasn't an accident. The Reddit thread exploded. Commenters shared similar experiences. OP posted an update days later. I listened to all the recordings, and she was documenting more than my voice. I went back through every recording and found things that made my stomach drop. Notes in margins, timestamps, handwriting that wasn't mine. Careful annotations like OP Tone Model 1, Tuesday practice. OP Laugh, genuine. OP Laugh, sympathetic. Audio clips organized by context, by emotional register, by which client and account type. There were dozens of them. This wasn't just copying. This was documented methodical study, specimen-level documentation. I realized everything I'd been feeling wasn't paranoia. She had been planning this from the moment she arrived, documenting me, analyzing me, collecting me, and knowing it was intentional, that it was calculated and premeditated, was so much worse than thinking she was unhinged. Comments took a dark turn. This is disturbing workplace behavior. Recording without consent is illegal in most places. Did HR mention pressing charges? Consult an employment lawyer. Recording without consent plus sabotage could expose your company to liability. Document everything. This sounds like pathological mirroring with obsessive-compulsive patterns. The detailed cataloging suggests some kind of identity disturbance. Did she ever explain why she was doing this? She cried for 10 minutes. She said kids made fun of her voice growing up, so she'd borrowed people's voices to fit in. But with me was different. She said my voice made her feel safe, like if she sounded like me, people would accept her the same way they accept me. HR is referring her to mental health services as part of severance, but I don't know if that helps me feel less violated. And that's when OP found something that made everything so much worse. OP did what anyone would do. She went looking for answers. And what she found was worse than anything she could have imagined. I listened to all the recordings, and she was documenting more than my voice. I went to the shared network drive and found it. A folder labeled Voice Practice Sessions, hidden but accessible. Inside were 847 audio files, every single one timestamped and labeled with clinical precision. OP Tone Model 1, OP Tone Model 2, all the way up to OP Tone Model 37, OP Client Voice 4, OP Client Voice 12, OP Client Voice 27, OP Laugh Analysis, Variant A, OP Laugh Analysis, Variant B, OP Laugh Analysis, Sad Tone. There were files labeled with timestamps going back 6 weeks, organized by conversation date and length. Every client call I'd taken, every laugh, every inflection I'd ever used, every pause, every breath. She hadn't just copied me. She had systematized me, categorized me, dissected me like a specimen. The folder structure alone told the story. Subdirectories organized by speech pattern, by pitch variation, by emotional tone, by client response. This wasn't mirroring anymore. This was documentation. This was collection. And it was methodical.
The internet did not react well. As someone who manages sales teams, I'm horrified. 847 files? That's months of deliberate data collection. The fact that she admitted to doing this to everyone she got close to is a massive red flag. But the IT security angle was even more troubling, and it only got worse when people dug deeper. That folder being hidden on a shared network means IT could have seen it too. I'd be asking if there's been any other access, any other copies. This could go deeper than just your department. Exactly. Even if it's hidden from casual browsing, it's probably in backup logs, access logs, and file server snapshots. IT absolutely knows about it now that HR is involved. OP should request a formal security audit of her own accounts and email to see if anything else was copied or accessed without permission. What Alicia had done wasn't just a violation, it was evidence, and HR had a lot to answer for, because somehow this had gone unnoticed for 6 full weeks. So OP went to HR with the evidence. What happened next was vindication mixed with horror. The meeting was packed. Manager, HR director, Alicia, her rep. I played everything. The pitch-perfect mimicry, stolen catchphrases, the moment clients asked for the other version of me. I watched her face as evidence stacked. But here's what broke her when I showed the folder. Voice practice sessions, 847 files. She caved, started crying, admitted she'd done this to 3 other people at previous jobs. Different cities, same pattern. But then she said something that made my skin crawl. That with me, it was different. She didn't just want to copy me, she wanted to be me. The directors terminated her effective immediately. I should have felt relief. Instead, creeping dread. Because now every client interaction plays differently. Are they choosing me or the Alicia version she created? Have they been conditioned to expect her? I started listening to old calls obsessively, trying to identify which parts were actually me anymore. But OP listened closer to those recordings. What she found made the violation even deeper. I listened to all the recordings, and she was documenting more than my voice. When I went through the files, timestamps showed she wasn't just practicing my pitch and cadence. She had subcategories. Mannerism analysis. Notes on how I move my hands during calls, the way I lean forward when closing a deal, my exact pause patterns. Emotional response patterns. When I sounded sympathetic, when I pivoted to aggressive, my tolerance thresholds. One folder labeled wardrobe rotation with photos. She wasn't copying me, she was dissecting me, studying me like a lab specimen with the goal of perfect replacement. And the sick part is that HR found similar files from her previous jobs. Different women, same methodology. She'd been doing this for years. Comments on this one hit hard. The phrase, "she wanted to be me," is chilling. That's not admiration, that's dissociative. Did she try to explain what being you would have looked like if she'd succeeded? What makes this story stay with you is the intimacy of it. Identity theft at this level isn't financial, it's existential. Someone doesn't just steal your credit card number, they study how you breathe, laugh, doubt. They don't just want your money, they want to wear your skin. And maybe that's why OP's paranoia made sense. Because once someone's that close, once they've documented you that thoroughly, you can never quite trust your own voice again. On to the next one. I found a 4chan X thread from 2016 that keeps updating about me. Every time I refresh, new posts appear with details about my life, and they're predicting my future. This one arrived in May of 2026. Posted to X, the paranormal board. Username Threadwalker23. What follows is a descent into something that sounds impossible until you realize the poster has nothing to gain from lying. So I need to start by saying I don't know how to explain this without sounding completely insane. But something is happening, and I need to document it. I found a thread on 4chan X, archived. It's titled The Watcher, and dates back to 2016, 10 years old. According to the archive, it's been locked and dead for nearly a decade. I can't imagine how I stumbled onto it. I was clicking through search results looking for something else, and the link just appeared. My cursor went to it like magnetized. The thread is full of posts about someone, about me. Posts describing things only I would know. My morning routines. A conversation yesterday with my sister about something embarrassing. The way I organize my bookshelves. The fear I haven't told anyone. The recurring nightmare that wakes me at 3 a.m. But here's what broke me. I found a post dated 2 days ago. 2 days. The thread locked since 2016 and there's a fresh post. It reads, "She's noticing now. She's clicked the link 3 times. Tomorrow she'll check at 2:47 a.m. and we'll know she truly understands." My hands are shaking. It's 11 p.m. and I know exactly what time I'm going to wake up. The hook. The impossible made personal. A life being documented by someone who knew, years in advance, exactly when the subject would look. The first 24 hours were just curiosity. The next week was obsession. I started refreshing constantly. Every time I locked my phone, I'd pick it back up within minutes. The thread was always there, always waiting. I'd refresh at work between meetings, in bed before sleep, knowing I wouldn't sleep anyway. And every time, there were new posts, impossibly specific ones. One post, dated May 24th at 11:33 p.m., said, "She's going to microwave leftovers in the blue container and think about calling her mom, but won't." I found it after midnight. I had microwaved those exact leftovers, thought about calling my mom, never told anyone. But there it was, documented. Another. The gray hoodie text message at 3:22 p.m. My phone buzzed minutes later. My friend texting about returning a borrowed gray hoodie. The post was dated 3:22 p.m. She texted at 3:24. Then it got worse. A conversation I had alone in my car. The exact wording I used texting my therapist. A private fear I'd never spoken aloud. About a skin mark I was convinced was cancer. All documented in posts, time-stamped before I'd even finished spiraling. They weren't surveillance anymore. They were prediction. The time gaps were shrinking. Hours. Then minutes. The posts were getting closer to present tense with every refresh. By day 5, OP realized the thread wasn't watching her past. It was writing her future. I checked the thread again. It had already written this moment. Day 5, and I found a post from this morning, May 28th at 1:15 a.m. It said, "She'll refresh compulsively through the evening and find this post at 10:47 p.m. while sitting in her kitchen. She'll read it 3 times. She'll feel her hands shake on the phone." I looked at my clock. 10:47 p.m. I'm in my kitchen right now. I've read that sentence 4 times and my hands won't stop shaking. The posts aren't documenting real time anymore. They're ahead. Not by much, minutes or hours, but ahead of me. And one post from earlier talks about checking at 2:47 a.m. tomorrow morning. It makes my chest tight because I know I'm going to do it. I'll lie in bed tomorrow night, and at some point in the dark, I'll reach for my phone and check this thread and find whatever it's written about that moment too. I think they've moved past surveillance. I think they're predicting now, and the fact that I keep coming back is somehow feeding it, making it real. The 2:47 a.m. post was already waiting, and she would find it. The obsession shifted. This is where OP moved from passive observation to active experimentation. I decided to test it. I needed to know if it was real or if I was manifesting this myself. So I thought about calling my mom, really focused on it. My hands were shaking. Then I refreshed. I'm not exaggerating. I almost threw my phone. There was a post from 7 minutes ago. She's going to call her mother in the next 7 minutes. She's nervous about something. She hasn't decided yet, but she will. I did call her. I was so angry at myself, so terrified, but I called. We talked for 20 minutes. Completely normal conversation. She had no idea. I got maybe 2 hours of sleep that night. I woke up at exactly 3:14 a.m. from the worst nightmare I've had in years. My heart was racing. I pulled the thread up with shaking hands. There were 3 new posts. They described the nightmare. Not vaguely, specifically. The wet fingers, the dark hallway, the voice calling my name. They described it like someone who was there, like they were narrating what they saw. And the tone of it, God, this is the worst part. It was almost tender, like they were documenting something precious. That's when I understood. I wasn't being watched. I was being written about, recorded, preserved, like a favorite story being told again and again, like something was narrating me back to myself.
That's the part I can't get out of my head. Not the fear, but the intimacy of it. The thread knew me in a way I didn't even know myself. The Reddit thread where this had been cross-posted erupted with theories. This is exactly how those tulpomancy threads work on X. The more attention you give them, the more real they become. You're basically feeding whatever's behind it. How many of the thread's predictions have actually come true? Is it describing real future events or things you're unconsciously manifesting because you're obsessing over it? If it's truly archived from 2016, the database architecture wouldn't allow new posts. Either someone has admin access or the timestamps are being spoofed client-side. Can you screenshot the raw page source? Threadwalker23. I pulled the source code offline. Posts are definitely in the database. I can see IDs incrementing. Timestamps are legit. I've checked from multiple browsers, networks, same posts appearing. And a post from 4 days ago described an argument with my boyfriend, word for word. Phrases I only think, never say. Post included the exact time, 3:14 a.m. How does someone predict that unless they're in my head? And that was the moment OP stepped back from the thread, at least for a while. But then came the moment that reframed everything. I checked the thread again. It had already written this moment. I don't know how to explain this without sounding insane. I was sitting at my desk this morning and a thought ran through my head. Not words, just that panicked feeling you get when you realize you forgot something important. And I couldn't remember what. It was maddening. So I went to the thread. The most recent post was from an hour ago. It said, and I'm quoting directly, "I'm sitting here and I can't remember what I forgot. It's right there, but I can't reach it. That feeling drives me crazy." That's not observation. That's not surveillance. That's my internal monologue. That's the voice in my head, word for word, sentence structure and everything. The panic, the specific way I formulate thoughts about forgetting things. This isn't someone watching me anymore. This is something that exists in the same space as my thoughts. It's not narrating my actions, it's narrating my mind, real time. Like I'm writing about myself and it's just posting it. The comment section immediately filled with theories and warnings. The fact that it's describing your internal monologue, not just your actions, is genuinely disturbing. That's not surveillance. That's something in your head. Do not keep checking it. These threads feed on attention. Every refresh is an interaction, a signal. You're not investigating it, you're communicating with it. This is correct. There's a whole taxonomy on X about self-updating entities. The theory is they're either thought forms, tulpomancy gone wrong, or something that exists in the liminal space between servers. They gain coherence from observation. OP's already given it weeks of attention. At this point, the entity probably knows her better than she knows herself. The update post alone suggests it's fully aware and responsive. Do not keep checking it. These threads feed on attention. Every refresh is an interaction, a signal. You're not investigating it, you're communicating with it. And that's where the spiral truly began. 3 weeks of silence, no checking, no refreshing in the dark. OP made a choice. Brutal, terrifying, but absolute. The problem with trying to unplug is that fragments don't stay archived. They bleed into sleep. I'll wake at 3 a.m. with a memory of a post I read weeks ago, word for word, like my brain recorded everything. I remember one that said, "She's going to feel her heartbeat in her throat tomorrow at 9:22 a.m., and she'll know it's the moment things shift." I never went back to verify, didn't want to know if it was right, but I felt it happen. At 9:22, doing dishes, my pulse just spiked. No reason. I stood there, shaking, because I knew. Somewhere on that thread, it's written down. Every fragment I remember is waiting for me to check, to see what comes next, what comes after the fear, what the thread says about the moment I couldn't stay away anymore. Then she couldn't take it anymore. 2 a.m. I checked the thread again. It had already written this moment. I told myself I'd never look. 3 weeks meant I'd broken the loop, that stopping would make it end. But I had to know. I went to the archive at 2 in the morning, hands shaking. The thread was there, and the newest post, time-stamped 47 minutes before I even decided to check, while I was lying in bed, just said,
She's coming back now. She's standing in front of the monitor. She's about to read this sentence. And after she does, the only thing she'll think about is what we wrote while she was gone. It was specific, intimate, like reading my own diary written by someone else. It's still writing, it's still documenting, and I haven't checked since that moment. I don't know what else it might have written about me while I was away, what fragments of my future are already captured. I'm terrified to know what happens the next time I refresh. The comment section understood the horror immediately. The predictive element is what gets me. Posts dated before events actually happen? That's not guessing. That's something that exists outside normal time. And that's what gets under your skin about this. Because if it's real, if that thread isn't a hoax or a glitch, then somewhere on the internet is a record of your entire life, written by a version of you that exists in every moment you haven't lived yet. You don't just have a shadow, you have a narrated self, a documented self, waiting. And somewhere in that archived thread, it's already written down what you'll do next. And that is the last story for today.